I drove a Cadillac. Well, Elvis, he had it all.
Hello again. Welcome into another edition of Strategies for Living here on 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL. I'm marriage and family therapist David McMillan. She is no ghost. She is right here, grinning like a Chessy cat. The other end of the broadcast table, PLPC, Carla McCormick.
Hey, Dave. You know what?
What?
No matter how my day has ever been,
Yeah.
when I get here with you guys, as soon as I hear that music, all of a sudden I start to feel happy.
The world's okay with you. Isn't that great?
You two guys are my favorite men in the whole wide world.
Well, the other guy is our ace of the airwaves. He's our producer. He keeps us flying high, low, and in between. Ruben Wright.
Good evening, everybody.
And let me ask both of you something.
Sure.
Have you ever wanted to go hunt ghosts?
A little bit, but I'm a little scared too.
You scared?
I'm a little scared.
Yeah. How about you, Ruben?
I've been to a few places that were, famously haunted, like the Myrtles Plantation and stuff like that. But I've never been blessed with having seen anything too convincing. You know what I mean?
We're gonna have some fun this evening because our life strategist has been on an adventure. He's got some chilling, true stories to share with us of the spirits who haunt the otherworldly landscape of the American Southwest.
Oh, we're going to cowboy town.
That sounds awesome.
That sounds fun.
Mr. Dan Baldwin is back with us. He's got a brand new book out with Rhonda Hall and Dwight Hall. We'll learn about that because the three of them started out as friends, and then they went ghost hunting together, and the rest is history. And you'll be able to read all about it, but don't go to the bookstore right this second. Stay tuned. Listen to Strategies because we're going to talk about speaking with the spirits of the old Southwest this evening. Going to have some fun with Dan Baldwin.
I'm ready.
Folks, thank you for tuning in to Strategies for Living. Thank you for having fun with us. We're presented by CADA, the Council on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse of Northwest Louisiana. Been helping families and individuals now for 60 years. We're also brought to you by Jerry Anderson State Farm Insurance, by Learning RX, by Highland Place Rehab and Nursing Center, by Jacob's Well, Inspirational Books and Gifts, and by Resilient House.
I got a million of them already.
I love it. I love it. We'll be back. Stay with us. If we're talking addiction prevention, education, and treatment in Shreveport-Bossier for 60 years, we're talking about CADA. Let's talk about addiction. Let's talk about treatment. Let's talk Welcome back. Welcome back into 101.7 FM at 710 KEEL. Welcome back into Strategies for Living. Let's welcome into the program now Mr. Dan Baldwin, who has used his skills as a pendulum dowser to locate missing persons. He's been doing that for more than 15 years. He's the author, co-author, or ghostwriter of more than 60 published works. He lives in Mesa, Arizona. His new book out from Llewellyn, along with Rhonda Hall and Dwight Hall, Speaking with the Spirits of the Old Southwest. Mr. Baldwin, welcome back to Strategies.
Friend of years, friend of tears. How you been?
Been doing okay. Not only is the universe stranger than we can imagine, it's stranger than we can imagine.
Can you imagine way, way, way back in the day that you and I would be sitting here talking about spirits of the Old West?
Dan, if you had told me that when we were running around in the 70s, you doing advertising, me doing radio, I'd have said, nah, Dan, I don't think so.
Yeah.
And
I would
yet,
have said the same thing.
And yet, here we are, my friend.
It's a great world, though.
Yeah. So I love some of what George Sewell, our friend, our good friend George Sewell, wrote in the foreword of this book, Dan. And the quote that I just mentioned, Sir Arthur Eddington. Eddington was an English astronomer. George says, you've likely heard or read about instances where an angelic presence appeared before a distressed person provided relief or guidance. The source or identity of the angel can be debated, but the real positive effect upon the person cannot. I couldn't think of a better way. Our mutual friend George did you proud, my friend.
I spoke at his Rotary Club a month or so ago, and I told the crowd that we actually the introduction that George wrote was so good we just had to write the book behind it.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so
go ahead.
You've got we know you. Introduce us to Rhonda Hall and Dwight Hall, because the three of you co-wrote this book together. We know from previous times here on Strategies, hosting you as a life strategist. You've been a good one. Last time we talked about your psychic detective guidebook. We know you used the pendulum, but how did you get with Dwight and Rhonda? What's that about?
Yeah, it's an interesting story. One of those strange things that just I guess it was meant to be, but it was something you couldn't plan out. Rhonda and I worked on a lot of cases looking for missing persons together.
Yeah.
And we got together, and I was running a particular case. In fact, it was a cold case involving a missing person from more than 100 years ago over in New Mexico.
Whoa.
And she was on my team.
Yeah.
And Rhonda and I kind of became friends, over the internet and over the telephone. They live a little bit south of me down in southern Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
And we discovered not only were we interested in helping to find missing persons, but we also had a fascination with the Wild West. So Rhonda one day said, why don't you come down here? Dwight and I, go out to these ghost towns and ghost ranches and abandoned mines and places like that all the time. Why don't you come with us? So pretty much on a lark, I said, that sounds like a great idea.
Yeah.
And so I started making trips down to southern Arizona. We started going to these different sites, which are fascinating. And one day, the light bulb boom goes off, and I'm sitting there. And we're thinking like, Dan's a pendulum dowser, definitely got a psychic connection.
Yeah, he's psychic on training wheels.
Are intuitives.
Yeah.
They have a natural ability to see and hear and sense spirits. And the light bulb went off, and why don't we try to make contact while we're out here? So I don't want to say on a lark, but as a trial basis, we said, well, let's go to a place and we'll do that. So we went to a place called Cortland. Cortland's a ghost town, and the jail is still there. It's a ruin, but it's got a roof and sides and everything. Yeah,
I was interested to find out that the jail started out as a wooden door on an old abandoned mine, huh?
That was another location, but yeah.
Yeah, and then they built a jail.
They built a jail, and it was, in fact, considering the Arizona desert heat, it was the most popular place in town. People would commit crimes just so they could spend the night in the jail.
I love
because it was the only cool place in town.
Yeah, literally.
So anyway, went to the site and I popped out my pendulum, and they engaged their intuitive abilities, which are tremendous.
Now, in
And,
addition
by
to the
golly,
intuitive,
we encountered the spirit of someone who had been a villain back in the good old days,
yeah,
and he felt trapped, at the jail. He said, basically, he said, this is where I belong. I'm in a miserable place because I did a miserable, terrible thing, and this is my penance. And we're trying to tell him, no, you need to go ahead and go into the light. Things are different over there. It's not. You're not going to have a very bad, painful experience. And so we worked with this guy, and particularly Rhonda. She's very good at this kind of communication.
yeah.
And eventually, the spirit left. And we physically felt, the presence, and an emotional feeling went through all three of us at the same instant. And we just said, he's gone. And we knew that he had crossed over.
You knew that he had gone to a good place.
Yeah. And so at that point, we realized, hey, we're really onto something. So we started, doing this in all kinds of different locations all around Arizona, ghost towns and places. And again, somewhere along the line, bong, the light bulb went off. Hey, Dan, you're a writer. We ought to be writing this stuff up.
We ought to write this down.
So we recorded all our sessions, so I had all that information. So basically, we took the interviews that Dwight, Rhonda, and I had conducted with these spirits. And we took some of they're historians. I mean, they're intense historians. So we had a lot of physical, very good research. So I took
that is
the
so
research,
interesting.
the history of every site and the personalities involved in that site. Then I do the transcripts of the actual conversations we have with the spirits.
That is so
and also
interesting.
I told a little bit about how we got in and out of the location. So you get a little feel of what it's like to be
yeah, you feel like you're there.
paranormal investigator.
Yeah, it's so interesting to have the history layered over with the. I know you guys may not like the term ghost hunting.
Not really.
Yeah.
It's shorthand. It's efficient shorthand, but we don't like the term because we're not hunting anybody.
Yeah. You're just talking with whoever shows up, communicating with whoever happens to be around, right?
Yeah, ghost conversationalist would be probably more accurate.
Yeah. Now,
one of the things that people will find in the book is, if you watch a lot of the television shows, or you'll hear that they'll get like a voice.
Yeah.
They'll record a voice, and that's the end of the show.
Yeah.
We got a voice that said hello or whatever. Well, in our book, we have extended conversations with these spirits. We talk to them. We're not there trying to capture, electronic voice phenomena, just a recorded word or a phrase.
Right.
We want to learn from these people,
Yeah.
and you get these extended conversations with the spirits of the Old Southwest.
Yeah.
And I think that's a little bit different from probably any other book out there.
Yeah. Now, did it take a little while for because the both of your co-authors, Dwight and Rhonda, are psychics. You've described yourself before on this very program as a psychic on training wheels. You use the pendulum, and not that you don't get some intuitive hits, but you use the pendulum. How did you guys figure out how to make those work together, Dan?
It really just we just tested it. We would try this, we would try that, and basically, I do my pendulum, and I'll ask questions. And, they can confirm whether or not I'm getting accurate answers, or they will ask questions, and I can confirm whether or not they're getting accurate answers.
Yeah.
So we kind of back-check each other as we go along.
Yeah. And I noticed that some of the time you were noting that you got in the pendulum is you get a yes or you get a no.
Right.
But you would say strong yes. You would give, what does that mean when you got a strong yes? How did you know?
Well, the pendulum will swing a little bit wider.
Mm-hmm.
There'll be a little more energy in the way the thing swings.
Okay. All right. So it's kind of like whoever.
There's a little more energy behind it.
Yeah, putting an exclamation point on the deal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It's an exclamation point.
Yeah.
Dan, are these spirits that get stuck? Or are they there because they want to be there?
The answer is yes. Let me explain that. Yes, some of the spirits here are trapped. We've encountered a number of spirits and who are trapped. They're afraid to cross over. They've committed a terrible crime, or in one case, somebody just has told us, I'm not worthy of crossing over. Yeah, all the wrong reasons, but they're trapped out of their own choice. They're afraid to cross over, or they don't feel like they've earned the right to cross over. And part of what we do is try to say, yeah, it's okay. You'll get a different perspective once you cross over. There's another set of spirits who have crossed over, and they have come back here. And that's divided into several different categories. But I guess the main category would be, one, spirits come back over to experience a pleasant time that they've had before. In other words, we ran into people who come back and they just have. I came back to my wedding party. I came back to have my wedding night all over again. My wife and I got married. It was the happiest day of my life. That happened once.
Wow.
The other set would be people who come back over for the strict purpose of helping others cross. So we've run into that a lot.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a ghost town called Gleason up in southern Arizona. It's an old mining town with a lot of ruins in it. But there's a little girl who lived there back in, I think, the 1880s, and she was kind of the darling of the camp. The miners would come out at the end of the day, and they would see the little girl, and she was kind of the bright moment of a hard day.
Yeah.
Well, she passed on. She comes back now, and when someone passes or she comes over and helps them cross over. That's what she does, or that's one of the things she does.
Wow.
And we've encountered that a lot.
We're talking with Dan Baldwin, new book, Speaking with the Spirits of the Old Southwest, at your favorite bookseller out from Llewellyn. Here in Shreveport, Barnes & Noble has some signed copies, guys. We'll be back with more. Dan Baldwin, our life strategist, this evening here on Strategies for Living. Don't go away. Addiction takes Doesn't it make your heart proud to hear
Love
that?
your bumper music.
Yeah, isn't that great? Hey, welcome back, folks. Welcome back into Strategies for Living here on 101.7 FM, 710 KEEL. Marriage and family therapist David McMillan, PLPC, Carla McCormick, and our life strategist Dan Baldwin, the co-author with Rhonda Hall and Dwight Hall of a brand new book at your favorite bookseller right now. Barnes & Noble happens to have a stack. They're signed. Speaking with the Spirits of the Old Southwest. You remember that old TV show, Dan? The theme song went, Wyatt Earp was a man, Wyatt Earp. Nerves of steel, heart of gold, lightning hands. You going to stop me? You going to stop me?
Please.
Yeah.
I was wondering when we were going to get some singing. It's been a while.
It has been a while. But I did not know. I mean, I knew, I remember watching that show as a kid and dreaming a few times that I could handle a 6-gun like old Wyatt, but I didn't know about Maddie.
Yeah, Maddie is a fascinating character. She's in our first book, and we're learning a lot from Maddie. We've written a second book. We're in negotiation now, but she's in the second book also.
Oh.
Maddie, for the folks that don't know, her name was Celia Ann Blaylock, and they call her Maddie Earp because she was the common-law wife of Wyatt Earp. She's the woman he abandoned when he ran off with Josie at Tombstone.
Oh.
Very sad character. Very sad.
So maybe Wyatt didn't have such a heart of gold after all.
Well, again, it's no, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. He let her go.
Dan, whenever these spirits cross over, did they describe what that was like?
No, we haven't really gotten into that area. That's going to be an area of one of our upcoming books. We've decided to look further into that area. But so far, our focus has been on the history of the Wild West and trying to learn about the Wild West from by interviewing the spirits.
So you talk about these things and everything that happened like so matter-of-factly, like there's no doubt at all. Why are so many of us out here in the public, why do we take it for granted that is probably not true? Or where's the skepticism and the doubt come from?
Actually, I don't think there's really that much doubt out there. If when I'm doing my book signings, I'll run into somebody who'll say, I don't believe in this ghostly stuff. But then they'll lean over and they'll go, but listen, one time when I was back at Grandma's house, I swear,
Yeah.
So I don't think that. I think the skepticism is probably more public persona. But also a lot of it is you have to work at this stuff. Unless you're lucky enough to just actually encounter a spirit accidentally, you've got to work at it.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, as a matter of documented fact, they're there, and you treat them right, they're willing to talk.
That's another thing. I mean, you talk about this is hard work. You talk about that, the public perception or our idea that it's got to be midnight and you've got to be scared. But the spirits are there 24/7, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Why does it have to be such hard work? Why are they so hard for us to contact? Why is it us or is it them?
Well, there's two reasons. One is the veil between the living and the dead. Apparently, it takes a lot of energy for them to communicate with us, and I can't say why that is, but the communication requires apparently an awful lot of energy, and plus you've got to be receptive on this end to pick it up.
Right.
Yeah,
and you've got to know.
Energy, sometimes it's powerful, sometimes it's weak.
You also have to know how to pick it up, don't you? I mean, in other words,
you've got to know how to pick it up.
Yeah.
You've got to be willing to do it.
Yeah.
And the other aspect is, a lot of these places, they're hard to get to. Sometimes we'll hike 2 miles into a site, and in Arizona summertime, that's not easy.
Yeah.
So just the basic physical labor of getting in your car, going to a place, setting up, doing the thing, and doing the research.
What would you say is if you could say, talk about the biggest surprise? What do you think the biggest surprise that you or Rhonda and Dwight encountered as you were
say,
doing this book?
yeah, speaking with a broad brush here, I think the thing that surprised me most is that once you cross over, you have a number of options. In other words, without getting religious on you, apparently you don't just get there and get your wings or your pitchfork. Apparently you cross over, and there are lots of things that you can choose to do. And one of those things is to come back over here, either for a visit or to help others.
So
And,
we don't lose our
look,
freedom. We don't lose our freedom at all then.
No, not at all. But at least that's the basis of our research. We're going to look some more into, like I said earlier, the crossing over process, and maybe trying to find out what some of those other options are. But so far, we know for a fact there are those that are trapped here that can be released. They can cross over, and once on the other side, it is possible to come back over here for any number of reasons.
Now, Dwight does something. You use the pendulum. Rhonda is intuitive, is a psychic intuitive, as is Dwight. But Dwight also uses some electronic equipment, right?
Well, we very lightly. We use the only equipment we really take along is my pendulum, and we use handheld recorders, handheld voice recorders.
Okay.
And the ones we use are the cheapest recorders we can find.
Is that because y'all are just cheap, or is there a reason behind that?
We're all on budget, Dave. You know, we're not rich and famous people in radio like some people.
Yeah, like Reuben. Yeah.
Yeah, like Reuben.
Yeah.
Apparently, I made this mistake. I bought a very good handheld recorder and was taking it out, and I wasn't picking up very much.
Yeah.
And Dwight informed me. He said, "Well, the problem with the expensive recorders is they're built to record, living human voices. They have buffers and mufflers and all kinds of enhancers built into the recorder.
Yeah, they're not raw. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you get the cheaper recorders don't have that.
They don't have all those bells and whistles built into them.
Yeah, so you can pick up spirit voices much better with the cheaper unit than you can an expensive unit.
Can you teach anyone how to do this, Dan, or is it a gift? Can you teach me?
Dowsing, you mean?
Like if I went there, could you teach me?
Oh yeah. Or better yet, he said, with a loud voice, you can buy my book, The Practical Pendulum, available everywhere.
Did she tee it up for you, or
what? Was that
what?
a setup, or was that a setup? Pendulum dowsing is extremely easy to learn. You can pick it up, half day or less. It's really easy. The only hard part is keeping an open mind while you do the process, so that you don't influence the pendulum itself.
Yeah.
But the process itself is remarkably easy, and anybody can pick it up.
And it's actually nothing magic. It's like you've pointed out. It's a rock on a string. It's a weight on a string. But what you're doing, it's actually a form of muscle testing. It's actually a form of tapping into your unconscious self.
Right. What you do, when you hold the pendulum up, and this applies to other mediums also, but when you hold the pendulum, your conscious mind is focused on the pendulum itself. That frees up your subconscious mind to get in contact with a higher power. And the answer comes from the higher power transmitted down to the subconscious, and your subconscious actually makes the muscles in your hand swing the pendulum. So the pendulum itself is a result of muscle action. But, for lack of a better term, the magic occurs in the spirit communication. That's where the answers come from.
You talk about in the book that one of the questions that, pardon the pun here, haunt you guys is how spirits from other cultures and from a lot of different time periods, they can communicate. They can communicate in a way that you guys can understand. They speak English, right? Right.
Yeah. We can't quite figure that one out because we have encountered. Well, we've encountered people speaking other languages. We've got recorded Spanish voices and we've recorded Apache voices, but we've encountered people who, we've encountered, for lack of a better term, cavemen. We've encountered people from, 10, 12,000 years ago. No way they could speak English,
right.
But yet we were able to communicate with them. So apparently, when you cross over, I guess you get perhaps some kind of a universal translator from Captain Picard, perhaps.
Along with your angel wings.
Yeah, along with your angel wings.
So
we haven't figured that one out, but it does happen. Now, sometimes you have to work at the communication. In other words, you have to maybe work at trying to determine what they're saying, and they have to determine what you're saying. But it does work in English.
Are you guys learning things, about, I mean, you talked about the Indians. So, like if we talk, is it the Anasazi or the Indians that were the cliff dwellers and nobody really knows what happened or when they went away? Are you guys like learning pieces of history and kind of putting that puzzle together in some cases?
Yeah, we are students. The driving purpose behind what we're doing is to study history, and our theory is, what better way to study history than to interview the people who were there at the time.
Wow.
But of course, the problem with that, and also the glory of it, is you're getting fragmented bits of information, bits and pieces, but those are fascinating bits and pieces. You say you're interviewing a spirit who lived at say Charleston Ghost Town for 2 years. Well, you only get that 2 years experience, and you only get maybe 1 or 2 or 3 minutes of interview time with that person, but you pick up information, and we're just adding pieces of the puzzle. Every year we get a little more piece here, a little more piece there.
It must be kind of like putting this giant jigsaw puzzle together.
The more the more we do, the bigger the puzzle gets.
The bigger the puzzle gets, and it would seem to me that maybe some of the pieces have little feet on them and they move on you.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah, again, Matty Earp is a fine example. As you read in book 1 and you'll read in book 2. We went into book 1, came out of book 1 after our interview with Matty Earp with a full set of information, our belief about her condition. We went back for book 2 and interviewed her and came away with an entirely different view of what she was doing and why she was doing it. It's a learning process, and the learning keeps on going. That's part of the joy of it.
We got to take a break, Dan, but
Yeah.
when we come back from break, who I want to talk about, right?
I would take a wild guess.
The flying nymph.
Yeah, Lisette.
When we come back, we're speaking with the spirits of the old Southwest with Dan Baldwin. We'll be back.
When your child or grandchild is in trouble,
Oh, yeah. The Birdcage Theater, the wildest, wickedest night spot between Basin Street and the Barbary Coast. You got my attention, Dano. Welcome back.
You'd love it down there. You'd love it.
Welcome back into Strategies for Living. We are PLPC, Carla McCormick, marriage and family therapist. I forgot who I was, David McMillan. And we're with Dan Baldwin, speaking with the spirits of the Old Southwest. The book is out from Llewellyn. You can find it at your favorite bookseller here at Barnes & Noble in Shreveport. They got a lot of signed copies. So this place, this was one of the most challenging, dangerous saloons between New Orleans and San Francisco during Tombstone's heyday, right?
Correct.
24 hours. It was open 24 hours a day.
24/7.
24/7, 365 a year between 1881 and 1889.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, the mines worked 24/7, and the miners would come off and the different shifts and head to the birdcage.
Yeah. So the flying nymph let fly. You got to tell me. Yeah. Inquiring minds want to know.
Yeah. This gets back to the options things that we were discussing earlier. Apparently, I think you're getting into my personal belief here. This is just what I think. But when you cross over, I think some of us become enlightened or are a little bit more enlightened.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us don't really change that much. So that you're pretty much the same after you cross over. So when you come back over on this side, if you're a jerk on this side and you cross over and come back, good chances are you're going to be a jerk as a spirit. Or if you're a good person and you come back, you'll be a good person as a spirit.
Yeah.
And apparently, some spirits carry grudges.
Oh.
Yeah, we were in the birdcage, and we were interviewing one of the girls, and we were asked her about one of the other girls, and boy, she did not like the other girl at all. They had little to do with each other. But Lizette was she was an entertainer. She would get on a swing and swing out across the audience. She was called Lizette the Flying Nymph. And nothing special came out of that interview. It was just real interesting to talk to somebody who lived that lifestyle way back when.
Yeah. And you guys even talked to Ringo.
Yeah, Ringo is one of Dwight's real heroes. And
Johnny Ringo, not Ringo Starr.
Not the drummer.
Yeah. Yeah, we're talking John Ringo, Johnny Ringo.
Yeah, John Ringo. Do not call him Johnny. He does not like the name Johnny.
Oh,
he
okay.
prefers John Ringo.
Okay. All right.
And his gravesite is easily accessible out near the Chiricahua Mountains out here, and we've been there several times and have encountered John Ringo.
Now,
one of the things we're trying to do, this is kind of a cause for Dwight and Rhonda, is his murder is still an open case. And we're trying to work with the sheriff's department to move that to a slightly unsolved status. Right now, it's generally considered a suicide, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And we're working we filed reports and things like that, trying to get the sheriffs to at least get it to an unresolved situation because he was clearly murdered.
So you guys have talked with the Pendulum, and Dwight and Rhonda. In their ways, you guys have talked with John.
We have recorded his voice.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so he says it wasn't a suicide. He got whacked, huh?
He got whacked. Yeah, and that's what we think happened is brought out in our book. We think that a character named Buckskin Frank Leslie, a famous Tombstone character, is the one who actually shot him. Possibly with the assistance of another young man there in town. That's our theory.
Yeah. Have you ever been invited to leave? Because I know back when you were in Shreveport, you were invited to leave lots of places, Dan.
Oh yes, we had the burning torches and everything.
Yeah. Have you ever been invited to leave in the work that you're doing now?
Only one time. I need to make this out. We've never had a scary experience at all.
Yeah.
Not one, not in the slightest.
Yeah.
And the only, I call it get out moment we ever had was we were way, way, way back in a very old, very abandoned mine. And we all believe that the get out message was, "Hey, you guys don't need to be here."
It
This
was
is a
but
very
it was a
dangerous
benevolent
spot."
message. It was you guys. It's
Yeah.
not safe for you to be
Yeah.
here. Yeah.
For your own sake, get out.
Yeah.
Other than that, we've never had a never negative experience, never a scary experience. Startling experiences, yeah, but not scary.
I mentioned this a few minutes ago, but again, this is kind of TV and movie stuff. The paranormal investigation is not at midnight. It's not. You don't have to wait till Halloween. You don't have to wait till the nighttime. You don't have to wait till the witching hours. That might be good TV or good movies.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but you guys work on the railroad the whole livelong day.
Yeah, the only times we've done night investigations is when it just happens to be night when we get to the location. 99% of everything we do is in the daylight.
Yeah.
And that makes sense. I mean, if you're a spirit coming back over here, you're probably going to come back when you are doing things. And most people, because they're asleep at night, are doing things during the daytime.
Yeah.
So why do you guys have to go back to like grave sites then?
We rarely go to grave sites.
Oh, okay.
Mainly we went to Ringo's site mainly because they wanted to show me where John Ringo was buried. That's the reason we went there.
But
Matty Earp, we went there just because we were in town searching for another site, and I just took Dwight and Rhonda by there to say, hey, this is where Matty Earp was buried.
Yeah.
And we got there, and things just started happening.
But you go to the energy, right? I mean, the energy's rarely, I would assume, at the gravesite. That's not where.
Yeah, imagine you're in Tombstone and you're a miner, you're a spirit of a miner. Are you going to go to Boot Hill, or are you going to go to the Birdcage Theater with the liquor and the girls?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, one example of that energy, and you guys write about the Gadsden Hotel, right?
Right.
A lot of energy there.
There's a lot of energy there. There's a lot of energy pretty much everywhere. Any place that's a good place to live now was a good place to live 100 years ago, and probably 10,000 years ago it was a good place to live. So there's the chances of running into spirits someplace are astronomical.
You mentioned we were talking about Ringo a second ago, and you made the connection. And you and I have had conversations about in our lifetime what we were doing November the 22nd, 1963, and remembering that time, and another great unsolved murder case. You ever want to go hang out at Dealey Plaza and ask some questions there, Dan?
I've been to Dealey Plaza many a time, but I've never taken my pendulum. That's
really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've researched that in using traditional research methods.
Is that something
I went
maybe in
to,
the future?
The rooming house where Lee Harvey Oswald stayed, and I was talking to the lady who knew Oswald, and she said, she was kind of laughing. She said, ghost hunters come by here all the time to do something in Lee's room. She said, which is silly because he didn't die here. He just lived here for a couple of months.
Yeah. Yeah. Huh. Do you ever have a
I would
hankering?
love to take Dwight and Rhonda, though, and just kind of walk them through some of the sites to see what they pick up.
Yeah, that would
be a hoot.
That would be a hoot. Maybe that's a future book. Who knows?
I can talk them into it.
Yeah, well, I have to put my 2 cents in and say I'm
I would love
requesting.
to walk them around Dealey Plaza and not say anything, just kind of walk them around.
Yeah.
What do you feel?
Yeah. This is such interesting stuff, Dan. I don't see how you could ever get bored. You live an interesting life.
And it's like Dwight says, he says, I started out in this business, 34 years ago with about 2 questions. He said, I'm up to about 512 questions now. You keep learning.
Yeah. And that's one of the points you make in the book. You guys very much stay in the pardon the pun here, spirit of being students.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons we are so successful in getting these extended conversations that are in the book is our attitude. We don't go in and confront anybody. We don't yell at spirits. We don't demand that they speak to us. We walk in. When you go into a haunted house, you're still going into somebody's house. This is where they live. This is where they raise their children.
Yeah.
And we go in with a very polite attitude. Hello, we introduce ourselves. We say we appreciate the opportunity to be in your presence. If you would like to speak with us, would you please speak with us? We're very polite.
You follow the
And
golden
I think they
rule.
appreciate that.
You follow the golden rule because you make the point. They're people
Exactly.
too, right?
Well, if somebody walked into your house and demanded that you start talking to them, you would, kick them out?
Can we go and ask them where the gold is?
Dan, and Dwight and Rhonda have beat you to it. They've already laid their claim. We are.
We're still looking for that. Somewhere out there is that mason jar full of $20 gold pieces. We
I
keep
love
hoping one of them will say, "Hey, go dig under the tree."
Speaking with the spirits of the old Southwest. That's the name of the book. Dan Baldwin, Rhonda Hall, Dwight Hall, out from Llewellyn. We'll be back to wrap up our conversation this evening with life strategist Dan Baldwin here on Strategies. We'll be back.
Cares of the past are behind.
I was a highwayman. Along the coach roads I did ride.
Welcome
Great
back.
song.
Welcome back into Strategies for a Living, 101.7 FM, 710 KEEL. Marriage and family therapist David McMillan, PLPC, Carla McCormick, and Dan Baldwin, our life strategist, the author of Speaking with the Spirits of the Old Southwest, along with Rhonda Hall and Dwight Hall. How cool is this that you guys, you get to do what you love when you want to do it? That's cool stuff, Dan.
That's I'm living the good life. My work is my joy.
Yeah. You can't beat that. And then the icing on the cake is, and this is something that I guess it comes through in the book. You guys were surprised somewhat that you can help people. You can help people who have passed over, and I guess that's just an indescribable feeling, just an incredible emotional feeling.
It is extremely emotional. I don't know how to say it other than that. It's always, again, it happens very rarely. It's only happened a few times with us.
Yeah.
But there are always emotional experiences, and sometimes it's the emotion is overpowering. It's overwhelming. That release of all that pain and anguish and fear just boom, and you can actually feel it go through you.
The fact that it happens at all, I mean, would be worth the quest.
Oh yeah, it's indescribable. You've really done something remarkable.
So we can look forward to more books. You keep mentioning
I'll be
sequel
calling
here.
you as soon as I get a publication deal. You'll be hearing from me again.
Well, I tell you, in the meantime, folks, you can continue the conversation with Dan Baldwin. How do you do that? With Dan and Rhonda and Dwight, you can go pick up a copy of Speaking with the Spirits of the Old Southwest out from Llewellyn Publishers. If you're shopping in Shreveport at Barnes & Noble, there's a stack of them there. You might have to pull the stool over there up on the top shelf. But the
top shelf book?
It's a top there. Oh, I love it.
I'm coming to visit, Dan.
I love it. Yeah, you're gonna.
I love to show off Arizona. Come on.
All right. Speaking with the Spirits of the Old Southwest, Dan Baldwin, go get this book. Folks, thank you. Thank you for tuning into Strategies for Living. We have been brought to you by CADA, the Council on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse of Northwest Louisiana, also by Jerry Anderson, State Farm Insurance, by Learning RX, by Highland Place Rehab and Nursing Center, by Jacob's Well Inspirational Books and Gifts, and by Resilient House. Dan, thank you so much for coming and being a great life strategist. Carla McCormick, you've done it again.
Oh, hey, I just got to have fun.
And Reuben Wright, you've done it again.
I am always stoked about these shows. I love the ghost stuff and the Western stuff.
I love it. Folks, thank you for tuning into Strategies for Living. And come back and join us again often. Tell your friends about us. That's the way we grow here on Strategies for Living, strategiesforliving.com, Strategies for Living. Like us on Facebook. If today were the last day of your life, you only had one more phone call to make, who would you call? What would you say? And why are you waiting? Make the call. For Dan Baldwin, for Reuben Wright, for PLPC Carla McCormick, for Dan Baldwin, I'm marriage and family therapist David McMillan. See you next time on Strategies for Living.
Breaking news and trending talk. This is 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL. KEEL, Shreveport.